Good day to you all. My name is Shravan Kumar Mishra. Currently, I am a faculty in the Department of Biological Sciences at IISER Mohali in India. Today, I am going to discuss with you the work which I did during my PhD thesis in the laboratory of Lutz Nower and Klaus-Dieter Scharf in the Department of Molecular Cell Biology at the Biocenter of Goethe University in Frankfurt, Germany. The work was done nearly 2 decades ago and was published in Genes and Development. As you'd noticed during my presentation, the work also had very important contributions from several colleagues as well as collaborators who were involved in generation of transgenic tomato plants. In this work, we could show that heat shock transcription factor HSF-A1 is the master regulator of thermotolerance because this transcription factor is important for production of heat shock inducible other transcription factors and heat shock inducible proteins in plants. By using multiple approaches at the level of plants and at cellular levels, we could demonstrate that this transcription factor is a major regulatory factor controlling heat shock response in plants. Heat stress response in different organisms require sensing of the heat and generation of a response which will protect the cell from heat stress damages. So generally, the transcription factors which code for heat shock proteins are kept in the inactive conformation in the cytoplasm of the cell. Upon heat shock, the transcription factors enter the nucleus and they bind to the promoter elements of heat shock genes. These promoter elements have heat shock protein binding elements where HSFs go and bind and lead to the recruitment of RNA polymerase with the help of general transcription factors of RNA polymerase. This process leads to production of messenger RNAs encoding heat shock proteins such as HSP17, HSP70, HSP90, and heat shock inducible HSF such as HSF-A2. Similar response is seen when the cells are treated with metabolic inhibitors, heavy metals, or oxidative stress. If we look at the number of genes coding for heat shock transcription factors in different organisms, we see an interesting phenomena. Most eukaryotes have very small number of genes encoding for HSFs. So for example, humans have 3 HSF encoding genes, whereas plants have very large number of genes which code for HSF proteins. One can ask the question, why do plants need so many HSFs? The answer to that would be that plants cannot escape heat, and that's why they need much better protection system from heat damages. It turns out that different tissues and organs of plant can have different sensitivities towards heat, and therefore they need different set of HSFs to protect from heat damages. So at the time when I started my PhD, there were 3 HSFs or 4 HSFs which had been cloned in the laboratory of Lutz Nower. And during this time, to study function of HSFs in tomato, the lab had generated transgenic tomato lines in collaboration with Bettina Chairs and Klaus Tharres. So the transgenic tomato line had HSFs in sense and antisense orientation. Idea of the sense transgene was to overexpress HSFs, and antisense transgene was to abolish expression of HSFs. And the plants were selected using the NPT2 as a selection marker. So I studied, so study with one of those transgenic line, HSF-A1 expression transgenic line, led to an important discoveries. And this discovery was published in Genes and Development. So besides contribution from me, my supervisors, Lutz Nower and Klaus-Dieter Scharf, there were important contributions from Joanna Tripp, Sibylla Winkelhaus, Bettina Chairs, and Klaus Tharres. So we were studying HSF-A1 sense transgenic tomato lines. So generally, whenever you do genotyping of plants, PCR is the first approach used for looking at the transgenes in the plant. But PCR have disadvantage that they do not give the number of transgene or loci of the transgenes in the plant. Southern blot is an ideal technique for this purpose. In this case, what you do is you digest genomic DNA of those transgenic plants with a restriction enzyme which is present in the transgene. And then the digested DNA you run on the gel and detect the transgene by probe specific to the transgene. And depending on the number of transgene, you will have the number of bands that will reflect the copy number of the transgenes in the plant. So we had one such plant which had three integrations of the transgene, which segregated into plants with 1, 2, or 3 copies of the transgene. So this is one such southern blot analysis. So this is done using the restriction enzyme XBAR1, which is cutting in the transgene, and it will cut at any other location in the genomic segment. So depending on the number of the transgene, we would see bands specific to HSF-A1 as well as specific to NPT2. And when we look at our plants, we see that wild type plant has endogenous copy of HSF-A1, whereas the transgenic plants with 1, 2, or 3 integrations had 3 additional copies of the transgene shown here. Both which is detected by HSF-A1 probe and which is further detected specifically by NPT2 specific probe. So until here, everything was all right, that we had the transgenic line with 1, 2, or 3 copies of the transgenes. But the surprise came when we started analyzing protein level in these plants. So this we do by Western blot analysis. And what we see is that wild type cell has normal HSF-A1 level, which is seen in both control and heat stress conditions. So C for control and H for heat stress condition. And plant with 1 copy of the transgene had a massive overexpression of HSF-A1. But surprisingly, plants with 2 or 3 copies of the transgene did not show any protein. One may say that the plants with 2 or 3 copies of the transgenes were located in region where they were not allowed expression. So, but then if that is the case, then the plant with 3 copies of the transgene, which has the overexpression transgene, the same overexpression transgene from southern blot, should have at least overexpressed like the overexpression transgene. But even this plant, despite having an overexpression transgene, did not lead to any protein formation in the plants. So we kept on looking at what is happening in these plants. So we did more and more southern blots. So for example, this time you see the southern blots with 2 different restriction enzymes, XHO1 and PVU1. Both of them are cutting in the transgene. But to our surprise, and we saw a very strange pattern with southern blots. So for example, with PVU1 restriction enzyme, the plants with 3 or 2 copies of the transgene showed 1 band, whereas with XHO1 restriction enzymes, plant with 3 copies of the transgene showed 2 bands, and with 2 copies of the transgene showed only 1 signal. So this way we kept on doing southern, and then the data, similar confusing data kept piling up, and we were not understanding what is going on this plant. So one day we decided to look at all southern blots together, and we spread all the southern blots on the discussion table of Lutz Noer in his office. And we kept on looking at these data, and then suddenly one of us said that it appears that the 2 transgenes, 2 of the 3 transgenes have been integrated as an inverted repeat. And at that moment, everything made sense, because when we look at this data here, so that the transgenes, if 2 of them are present in the form of inverted repeats, all the bands what we see with PVU1 or XHO1, as well as with the other enzymes, would make perfect sense. And so here in this case, we had got something what we had not expected. So we got HSF-A1 overexpression plant, that's what we were trying to get. But in addition to that, we got plants which did not abolish the overexpression of the transgene, not only abolish overexpression of the transgene, but also it led to complete knockdown of protein from the endogenous copy, almost like knockout. So we had plant with HSF-A1 overexpression with single copy, and the plants containing 2 copies of the same transgene did not show any protein, or plants containing 3 copies of the same transgene did not show. So these plants, interestingly, as I was mentioning earlier, these plants not only suppress the overexpression transgene, but also suppress the expression from the endogene. And that happens because of the tandem inverted repeat, which has integrated in these plants. So then we next ask, what is the mechanism of co-suppression? RNAi was recently reported in plants, and so what we thought that maybe these plants also has small interfering RNAs of around 21 nucleotides. For this, what we did was we isolated small RNAs from these plants, and we did northern blot for probes, HSFA1 probes, specific to its antisense strand as well as to its sense strand. And we use synthesized RNA oligos for sizing those small RNAs as well as for monitoring specificity of the probes. What we see is that the co-suppression plants had an RNA around 21 nucleotides in length in these both in sense as well as in antisense orientation. So what we saw is that the plants which contain the inverted repeat have small interfering RNAs of around 21 nucleotides. And then we wonder what could be the possible mechanism of this. So what we think might have been happening in our plants was that we had the inverted repeat, and this inverted repeat would have generated double-stranded RNA. Double-stranded RNA would have got cleaved into small interfering RNAs by the enzyme dicer, and these small interfering RNAs would have got incorporated in the RNA-induced silencing complex called RISC, and those silencing complexes would have gone and specifically bound to the messenger RNA coming either from endogene or from transgene, and would have led to the degradation of messenger RNA and thereby a complete silencing of HSFA1 gene in these plants. So we then next asked what happens when HSFA1 is absent. So first we looked at the expression of heat shock inducible HSFs. So for example, HSFA2, if you see in overexpression plant already in control condition, HSFA2 is induced or is present, which is induced under heat shock in wild type plant. And then if you look at the HSPs, so the targets of HSPs like HSP17 or HSP104, their expression is also seen in the control condition in overexpression plants. But when we looked at the plants lacking HSFA1 because of the inverted repeat, we saw that they did not express any heat stress inducible HSF or heat stress inducible HSPs. So they were lacking the induction of those proteins even under heat stress conditions. And therefore these plants were likely not sensing heat and not leading to production of these proteins in them. When we look at the plants, what happens to the plants containing higher amount of HSFA1 or plants lacking HSFA1, what we saw is under normal conditions, these plants grow fairly normal. So the plants are going all right in normal conditions, but the co-suppression plants die with a mild heat stress of 45 degrees Celsius for 1 hour, when wild type and overexpression plants survive normally. And if you take a specific regime of 45 degrees Celsius followed by 51 degrees Celsius for 1 hour, overexpression plants are able to survive, but wild type and as well as co-suppression plants die. This suggested that overexpression plants have some thermotolerance, so which is more than better than wild type plants, and co-suppression plants lack thermotolerance. When we look at the fruits from these plants, what we see is that if we take green fruits and then heat them at 42 degrees Celsius for some time, so they would not ripe if they are from co-suppression plants. So this is a controlled fruit to say that if you take green fruit, they would ripe normally and become red. But the fruits from overexpression plant as well as from wild type plant would ripe if they are incubated for certain duration. This suggested that co-suppression plants lack thermotolerance at the plant level as well as on the fruit level. So then we were looking at what is the molecular mechanism of the lack of heat stress response in co-suppression plants. So as I mentioned earlier, that heat stress promoter elements or HSC bind to heat shock transcription factors. So we wanted to see what is the situation with HSC binding transcription factors in our transgenic plant's nucleus. The approach was somewhat similar to like fishing the bait. Normally you would take the bait and try to fish. So try to see what binds to that bait or what gets fished by the bait. Here we were having the uh, uh, HSC elements promoter, and we were looking at from the total plant's nucleus, total extract of the plant nucleus, what is binding to those HSP promoters. So the experiment, what we did here was electromobility gel shift assay with nucleate extracts from wild type and transgenic tomato plants on heat stress promoter elements or HSCs. So the scheme of the experiment is shown on the left side, and where we are taking nuclear extract from leaves and incubating with radio-labeled HSC promoters. And then the complex is resolved on native acrylamide gel and then visualized by autoradiography. As we can see here in wild type plants under heat shock condition, there is a HSF DNA complex which is found in the nuclear extract of those plants. But these complexes were completely missing from the plants or nucleus of suppression plants. Whereas in overexpression plants, already under controlled condition, we see sufficient amount of these um, complexes, and which increase further when we give the heat stress treatment to these plants. So this suggested this lack of this complexes in co-suppression plants suggested that either HSF-A1 is the major transcription factor binding to these promoter elements, or HSF-A1 is responsible for production of all activities which are going and binding to these heat shock promoter elements. This clearly suggested that HSF-A1 must be the major regulator of the heat shock transcription factor binding to the HSP promoters in the cell. So after this, then we asked the question, can we restore the lost heat shock response in co-suppression plants? For this, you would have needed to generate transgenic tomato plants again, which would have taken a long time. So then we thought that can we do these experiments with at cellular level? So during those time, cellular studies in mesophyll protoplasts were established for tobacco plants. So along those lines, we established the protoplast system for tomato, our tomato transgenic lines, and we started studying the heat shock response in these plants. The assay was GUS assay. So GUS is fused to the promoter of HSP17 gene, and where HSFs can come and bind, and if they bind there, then they will lead to activation of the GUS gene, which can be monitored in an enzymatic assay. So if we take protoplasts from wild type tomato plants, HSF-A1, so increasing amount of HSF-A1 leads to increasing activity of GUS, meaning that the promoter gets activated. Similarly, increasing amount of HSF-A2 also led to increasing activity of the GUS. And so suggesting that HSP17 gets induced both by HSF-A1 and A2 in these tomato protoplasts. Interestingly, not only from the transformed construct, but also the endogenous HSP17 in these protoplasts appeared upon transformation with HSF-A1 as well as with HSF-A2. When we did similar experiment with co-suppression protoplasts, what we found that any amount of HSF-A1 expression construct was silenced fully. So we could not get any expression of HSF-A1. That is, as we have seen previously, that is because these HSF-A1 get silenced because of the homology to the siRNA which is produced in these protoplasts. But when we transform these protoplasts with HSF-A2 expression construct, that lead to the activity of HSP17 promoter based on GUS assay, as well as the production of endogenous HSP17 in these protoplasts. So in these assays, we also made chimeras of HSF-A1 and A2 to monitor the silencing of those chimeric constructs in these post-suppression protoplasts. What we found is that the silencing efficiency of those chimeras is proportional to the homology of those chimeras to HSF-A1 coding sequence. So if the coding sequence of HSF-A1 was reduced in the chimeras and more of HSF-A2 was used, those chimeras were silenced at a lower level. So this was direct, so therefore the silencing was directly proportional to the homology to HSF-A1. And this is typical of homology dependent gene silencing, what is seen in the RNAi phenomena. We next ask, can we use these systems and also try to restore the lacking thermotolerance in our protoplasts, in our plants? So for this, we used a well-established luciferase protection assay. In this assay, what is done normally is that luciferase, version of luciferase is used, which gets inactivated if the cells are heated at a higher temperature. So under control condition, the activity remains normal, but at higher temperature, the luciferase becomes inactive and cannot renature back until the cell has sufficient amount of heat shock proteins in them. So heat shock proteins can be generated by a mild heat shock treatment before the severe heat shock treatment by the condition called as pre-induction situation, which generates production of HSP17 here in this case and leads to protection of the luciferase and renaturation of luciferase. The similar observation, similar results can be obtained if we express HSF encoding genes, encoding constructs. So in that case also, HSF-A2 expressing cells produces heat shock proteins, which will protect as well as lead to renaturation of luciferase gene in these protoplasts. So we saw that tomato protoplasts display the heat thermotolerance phenomena, and with the same system, we monitor what happens in post-suppressant protoplasts. Post-suppressant protoplasts did not show any protection of luciferase or renaturation of luciferase in pre-induction treatment because they lacked heat shock response. But when we transform or express HSF-A2 in these protoplasts, they led to expression of HSP17 and also protection as well as renaturation of luciferase in them. Under control condition, the amount of luciferase remains unchanged. So one important point to note is in all these results is that during the time course of the experiment, the level of luciferase normally does not change. It is the amount of folded luciferase which is responsible for these activities would be changing in the cell, and that would lead to the activity of luciferase. So with this, we could clearly show that the post-suppression plant which lack thermotolerance, their thermotolerance can be restored by transforming them with HSF-A2 expression construct, because that restores the production of heat shock proteins in them. So if we summarize what I have presented so far is that we can say that HSF-A1 is the master regulator of thermotolerance, responsible for induction of heat stress inducible HSFs as well as heat stress inducible proteins. And by EMSA we have shown that HSF-A1 is the major HSF binding to heat shock promoters. And we further showed that the mechanism of HSF-A1 post-suppression is because of the integration of inverted repeat of HSF-A1 transgene, which generated RNAi phenomena by generating siRNAs, which led to knockdown of HSF-A1 expression messenger RNAs. Further, we also showed that HSF-A2 or HSF-A3 could restore thermotolerance in post-suppression protoplast. And we had also shown that the expression construct of HSF-A2 and HSF-A3, they also restored lacking heat stress granules, so which are called HSGs. And these HSGs are a hallmark of thermotolerance because they are responsible for protection of heat sensitive RNAs and proteins by recruiting to those stress granules. So if we look at these data from a different perspective, what we see is that despite receiving multiple HSF-A1 transgene, some plants did not express the protein. So then one can ask the question, why did those transgenic plants invert or silence those transgenes? So The question would be that do the plants, do they not like overexpression of HSFA1? Because one can ask the question, I mean, why would they not like HSFA1, which is leading to thermotolerance in those plants, which is a good trait for plant to have to remain thermotolerant. So this trait probably plants will prefer, which are grown at constantly high temperature. And for them, thermotolerance might be a good trait. But maybe thermotolerance is not a good trait for plants in all different conditions, and they do not naturally select that trait. And the reason for that is that the gain of thermotolerance might have associated cost, and the plants may lose some other important properties. So if you want to know what is the cost associated with thermotolerance in plants, we can use the transgenic plants which I discussed, and we can check if thermotolerance in plants have an associated cost which is adverse in nature. So for example, if the question is, do plants prefer thermotolerance? And if they do not prefer thermotolerance, is it because heat resistant plants tend to lose certain competition in natural selection? And what is that? So if we select different traits in these plants, in HSFA1 transgenic plants, for example, yields, quality of plants, fruits and seeds, and resistance to adverse conditions and pathogens, maybe we will find that the plants which are thermotolerant, they do not perform well in some other conditions in them. I had started my presentation by saying that the work was done nearly 2 decades ago. But if one follows the literature, one notices that the work has remained highly relevant throughout these years. We had started with whole tomato plants, which is not highly amenable to molecular research. We had obtained HSFA1 overexpression plants, which showed thermotolerance. We had also obtained HSFA1 knockdown plants, almost like knockout, which lacked thermotolerance. The process of thermotolerance we could also demonstrate at the cellular level of plants in the mesophyll protoplast. The lacking thermotolerance, what was there in co-suppression protoplast, could be restored by expressing related HSFs. In addition to all this, this was a clear demonstration that RNAi can be used effectively to knock down gene expression in plants. So with this hypothetical question, I would end my presentation, and so thank you very much for listening.